Good morning, my YouTube friends. Hope we're all doing well today. I wanted to welcome you back for episode 17 of the BEL podcast. I hung out with my new friend, Jake Gill from the Midwest in the United States. He's currently promoting his single Positivity, which we'll play a little bit for you in a second. And he's a chiropractor turned full-time musician over the last 10 years. And it was a really interesting conversation. I hope you guys enjoy it. I thought it'd be fitting for a country musician to be out here checking on my irrigation when I shot this intro. So let's start this off with a little positivity.
Song of love, I'm gonna rise above positivity. That's the key to live a life that's wild and free. Don't you know we can be anything we want to be?
So here's actually, I'm gonna come loaded with a question because I was just listening to Positivity again, which is it's the single you're pushing right now, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to write just a fun song for summer. Yep.
Okay. Because it's definitely a summer jam, but I'm curious if that was like a reminder to yourself or if that's like your attitude all the time.
Oh, both. So first, like just reggae, the beat of reggae is just great for summer. It just kind of puts people in that mood. The moment the song starts up, and really I wrote that song strictly for a live performance. And the mood, so the music sets the mood. But you hear the word positivity, and until you start, there's just some wisdom out there. And one of the pieces of wisdom that is true in this world, and that is what a man believeth in his heart, so shall he be. And if you see the world from a positive standpoint, you're going to get positive out of it. If you see the world from a negative standpoint, you're going to get, I heard this just the other day, and you hear stuff, right? So you hear stuff and then you Google it. And this is absolute truth. Research studies showed that people who not only complain, but listen to people who complain on a regular basis, it shrinks their hippocampus. Their hippocampus is the part of your brain. Generally, it controls your memory. And boy, if that doesn't just really get your attention, now am I saying it causes Alzheimer's and all that? No, but who
doesn't help though?
Who doesn't need better memory? Right? As we go through there, so that was key for me. And really, the longer you do this, the more you appreciate the relationships that you make and the friendships that you make in this business. And to be able to influence them in a positive direction, that's a huge responsibility, and you have to do it.
Well, and like you say, it's a responsibility. Like I make a choice whether I look at the glass half full or the glass half empty, and whether I pay attention to that choice or not is kind of my prerogative. But it sure changes how bright the day is.
Yeah,
if you want to look at it that way, right?
Yep, absolutely. So I don't even know where I was. I just sometimes those light bulbs just come off. But I was like, you know what? I like that reggae beat. And reggae by itself, it can get a little monotonous. It can get a little old pretty quick, just from a rhythm and standpoint. But I heard it and I was like, yep, we're gonna write a reggae song. And I do that. I write a variety of stuff sometimes, and keeps things fun for me. And I don't know from a fan standpoint if it's always the best. A lot of people find something in your music and they like it, and then if you change that, it's a turnoff. I think sometimes it's kind of, no bigger turnoff for Garth Brooks fans than Chris Gaine, So that was a little bit extreme, but it's always there. It's always there. What about you when you're writing? Do you write with a style? Are you always in the same style, always in the same genre?
So I'm not a big writer. I was a live technician for 10 years. I was a stage manager in that time. Like, how there was crossover and all the technicians. And more recently I've gotten into producing and then just recently writing. But I'm trying to do everything, man. Like, Led Zeppelin would have a rock song and then a funk song and then a country song. And that's what I want, man. I like big drums. I like 80s drums, and I like loud guitars, and I like meaningful vocals. I don't really care what the rest goes,
Yeah. No, that makes sense. 80s drums. Yeah.
Hey, that's all country is today.
No, it is for sure. No, it is for sure.
So what's the writing process look like for you? You said you found a reggae beat, but that didn't sound like it was just a beat. That sounded like a drummer playing on the record.
Yeah. So what I did with that particular is I just went to YouTube and started listening to different reggae beats, and then I wrote my lyrics to that track. And then when I went into the studio, I gave the engineer a sample of what I wrote as the background, and then we just sat down and we did a lot. So the drums were live. A lot of the other stuff was done on the keyboard, and we do that when we perform that song live. We have a backing track on with some of the keyboard stuff. I don't travel with a keyboard player as it goes through there.
It's too much of a liability.
Yeah, well, they are. Boy, you think guitar players are picky about their guitars and how they care for it. Keyboard players, it's a whole nother deal. And I get it. I understand. But no, I mean, it's just a keyboard player would be nice to have. And matter of fact, if you could have a keyboard player over a guitar player, because nowadays you can modulate on a keyboard just like you can with a guitar, and it's never the same, but the versatility of a keys on stage would be huge. But that's how we did it in the studio. Is I went to YouTube, and there's so many talented guys and gals out there who just have free beats that you can write along with, and then when you go in the studio, you can use that as a model and create your own.
So do you have session players, or do you have a band that you come back to for your studio?
No, I do have session players. Yep. Okay. I've had in the past. If I have a guy or gal that's touring with us that really, if we wrote it together, they're going to be on that, kind of deal. Or if they're just a better player, but there's not many better players. Session players are, they're there for a reason. They're astute and meticulous in what they do. And really, there are guys and gals out there who can do both and do both well. But to be a performer, there's a lot of studio musicians that could never perform on a stage because they just can't. They can't grasp everything that's going on at one time, and vice versa. There's some performers out there who maybe don't have the skill level to just be perfect. And because studio is money, and if you're retracking everything and going back and doing a bunch of edits, the price tag goes up. So if you got the best guys in there right away, you save yourself a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Well, you just pay someone for the part, and they're a professional. They just give you the product, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. But then you have you're prepping for a tour. You're on tour.
So I play all the time, and so this is what I tell people: I'm not the best singer in the world. I'm good, but I'm not the best. I'm not the best guitar player in the world, but I can play and I can carry the band. But I just naturally born to be an entertainer. So if I'm not on a stage or in front of people, I'm generally not the happiest person in the world. It really is. It's just what I was. I look back, and my parents will show me pictures from when I was a little kid. I was always showing off. I was always just trying to make people laugh. I'm grateful that I wasn't a comedian, and that was not my destiny, because I think I would just offend so many people because my humor is all over. And my wife, she'll be the first to tell you that, she's like, that's not funny. I think going out in the yard and throwing petrified horse manure at each other is a fun activity. She doesn't think so. Yeah, that would be a great example. So I'm grateful that I found my calling to do that. And I think that's just, man, that's like the best thing in life. If you can really find that intersection of what you're good at and what you were made for, there's just so much reward in that.
Well, and I think people who are meant to be performers, like, because I was in a weekend band, like I was in a cover band for years and years and years. But like I can't describe to someone who hasn't performed what performing feels like.
Yeah.
But once you get there, man, like I had the taste for 3-4 years full time, and I want it back.
It's you could call it a drug, but I don't know that that's even the right word, to describe it. That's about as similar as you could get. There's just so many. It's so much more than adrenaline, and of course now so one day I'm messing around, and again, so I was a chiropractor for 15 years before I did
Oh,
this.
wow. Okay.
So grew up in it with a strong medical background, and really was always taught research. You've got research for this, and we need more research for that. And so now that we have Chat GTP, man, you could just I just took one day, and I was like, okay, I'm going to type in the health benefits of live events and live music, and they just spit out these research articles. And so I got to looking at it, and I was like, okay, decrease stroke risk, lower blood sugars, decreased blood pressure, cancer risk goes down, just by socially gathering with people in different situations. And I looked at that, and then I thought about how much I enjoy and how much I feed off of being in those events, being on stage, being around people, and the therapeutic health benefits that obviously these research studies are showing us. I'm soaking that stuff up. So it's actually energizing me while I'm on stage, and for people to understand. And we all saw the opposite of that during COVID. It was why, for me, live streaming was horrible, because I had zero connection with my audience. And if I did, it was delayed. Or if you had 50 people on one channel in a video stream, your bandwidth was a mess. And we saw the ramifications of that. We saw social isolation and the ramifications. Depression rates skyrocketed, suicide, alcohol consumption went through the roof, and we're dealing with that now. And of course, we play in. I'm not saying you shouldn't drink, but just the level and what that does to the person's brain. So just the opposite happens when they're together and they're in a social environment. They don't drink as much. Number one, they're taking care of their brain, but all these other hormones and chemicals get released in their body that have a positive benefit. And we get that when we're on stage and we're in those situations. And, so we could talk about 1,000 things there between AI, health benefits, and different activities. But the biggest point is the benefits that we feel on stage. People in the crowd feel that. And that's where live performance will never be replaced by robots, never be replaced by, they tried, DJs and karaoke and all those things are great, but we see that resurgence of live music, and that's great.
And, that's like, to go back to the pandemic that we just passed through. And I want to talk about like your experience with live streaming and everything there too, building your community. But I've seen like a resurgence of live performances now. It's like people want that energy. They want to be connected with crowds. They want to be connected with people. And I'm a big time extrovert. So it's all good news for me, right?
Right.
Because like just being in the audience or around the audience refuels me. And then to your point, like when I was on stage, when you're almost like you're conducting it, it's like you become a part of it, right?
Yep, absolutely. One of the coolest things is one of the first interviews I did during COVID was a guy by the name of Eric Blocking. He was a general manager of an arena in Wichita, Kansas. And then he moved out to California, took over a facility there. And then I think now he's in San Antonio. They just opened, they were building this at the time of the interview, a completely interactive, it was an interactive theater. I think it could seat like 300. But the goal and the concept of this was totally virtual reality, in that they had cameras 360 all the way through the arena. They had whatever, I don't even know what the highest level of digital sound is right now, 7.1 surround, something like that.
Something crazy.
But they're building that in the hopes that when virtual reality catches up, that when we're beyond wearing the goggles, that the vision there is that people how they're going to do it. I don't know how they're going to do it, whether you're wearing a suit or something, but to be able to experience, feel the music in your body, visually see everything around you, be able to go to the concert, to a VR concert with your friends sitting next to you, to the point where if somebody spills a beer behind you, you feel the beverage trickle down your back. If we ever get to that point, then I think virtually we could see maybe some of the same health benefits that we do You know, you can just visualize the apocalyptic end of the world where everybody's in total isolation, but we still have this community. It's kind of crazy cool to think that we could ever be there one day. We all don't want to be, but as a band, if you could go into a room, into a small arena and perform and play a show, and then know that you've got an audience all over the world that is feeling, seeing, hearing, smelling everything that it's so we're there. We're 20 years away. What's 20 years,
Yeah.
Kind of cool. But no one's going to be satisfied until that experience is exactly what you feel when you go to a live show.
Absolutely agreed.
So really, there's nothing to be afraid of because we're a long ways away from it, even though we're not. And when we get there, it is going to be as real and authentic as possible because we're not going to, we're Americans. We're human. We're not going to satisfy for anything less.
Yeah, until it's gluttonous and gratuitous.
It was kind of cool to hear that interview of a group in San Antonio that is thinking that far ahead of time. Now, whether it's in their lifetime or not, who knows? But they're going to write the book for it.
Yeah. No, that's super interesting. Like we went to, I can't remember what the museum's called in Seattle. Music something electronic. I don't know. Anyways, but they had like a big digital screen. This is right when like LED screens became a big thing, and they had a real light show with someone commanding it to a performance that was playing on the giant LED.
Oh,
so it was almost like larger than life, but it kind of put you in the seat.
Gotcha. This is the.
You go ahead with that.
Can I take that real quick?
Yeah, you take it, man. You're good.
I appreciate it. I normally don't have my my ringer on, but so we broke down the side of the road, and cars today, it's just unreal. It's digital start, it's pop-up electric transmission, and there's just nothing you can do when you're stuck. So I wanted to make sure they got it loaded on the truck. Okay, So we were back. You were telling me about Seattle.
Yeah, so it's the electronic music theater of arts or museum of arts, or anyways, it doesn't really matter. But it was really cool, man. Like I got to walk through the rebuilt set of Thriller. And they had all the costumes in place where they were supposed to be. They had the lighting cues actually happening as we walked around. And they had the tracks for the cameras. They had like the different scenes and everything. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah. But like same thing, like as what you're saying, like if that was like an augmented reality or virtual reality, like that would be an experience that I would finally get behind.
Yeah. That's crazy. You remember the movie? I can't remember the name of it. It was like a time warp. They would go back in their dreams, and they actually laid in a pool of water to feel and to sense everything like that. As soon as they figure out the medium to get us to sensory feel things that are in virtual, I mean that's the goggles are pretty real. And so they got the visual down, but it's going to be the other sensory, and really it's that tactile sensory. As soon as they figure that out, that's a whole nother deal. Like you think about it, you'll be able to pick up Eddie Van Halen's guitar and feel it and hear it. Like there's some crazy stuff that can come out of that. And I don't know, that's kind of cool. But to be able to walk through the set of Thriller, man, yeah. And that was in Seattle?
It was in Seattle. Yeah. Would recommend. They always have different setups. So the one time I was there, they were setting up for the AC/DC one. They had a Nirvana display. Like they had the sweater that Kurt Cobain jumped through the drum kit on and cut himself all up with. It had the blood on it still, man. It was wild. Like but that's the thing. Like, and maybe we can pivot this back to your social media here, but it's kind of nice having frozen moments in time that we can appreciate now. Like, we go back and watch all these live performances and they're amazing, but like a finite amount of people saw it live, right?
Yeah. And
I just, whatever it takes to get us closer to being able to have these memories, man, like I'm for it.
There's one particular one that I, in the midst of doing podcasts for live performances that we've been doing, there's in the Midwest, and I don't know the name of the town, but somewhere around Chicago, there was a time, and I've heard this from 2 or 3 different people all across the U.S., and they experienced the same thing. Apparently, Tom Petty was doing a concert in a park somewhere, and a lightning storm came and hit and was going to shut it down. And instead of shutting down, he just continued. And apparently just like some magical moment happened with lightning behind the stage. And everybody that was in that park, and then there was one person that we interviewed, they were like blocks away watching from their car, and they experienced the same thing. So I think that would be just those moments, Woodstock, like to be able to go back and there's just so many. That would be fantastic.
So how about in your performing career, do you have a moment you could describe to us, like one of them spiritual moments?
Oh man, I knew you were going to go there.
It probably changes every day, doesn't it?
Well, you know, it does. And I really don't like to highlight certain performances because everything's special, you know, kind of deal. But if I really sat down and I picked out one, we were performing in a casino in Minnesota. I believe it was Minnesota. And we've got a song called "The Story of Your Tattoo." And it's got a good message. It's just a good ballad. It's just a good, solid ballad. But occasionally when we play that, sometimes we get to shows ahead of time. We get to meet people. We meet people. We find out their history, their story. This lady had a remarkable story, and she lost her daughter in a car accident. Her tattoo told the story of it. We brought her up on stage before we sang that song, and we let her share her story, her pain, her hurt. And in a casino, this was a bar and a club open to the casino floor. And I've never heard a casino go quiet. I know that the lights and the bells were still going off, but no one heard them. And
wow.
And there was just tears all across that casino. And that's a moment that really stands out as something that you're like, okay, do I ever want to experience that again? You know, yeah, because your memory fades as it goes through there. So yeah, there's definitely stuff, and that's just like that's a more serious moment. We all have fun moments, and you know, different things like that. But yep, that would be an experience that if you could feel that emotion, I would want people to be able to experience that.
No, that's beautiful, man. I appreciate you sharing that with us. How has the social media kind of world today been treating you? I see you have 25,000 on Facebook, man. Congratulations.
So thanks. So Facebook was very early for me. I've been doing this full-time 10 years, part-time 6.5. I said that backwards. I've been doing this part-time 10 years, full-time 6.5. So Facebook was really big in the early part of that. And then I never really jumped on Instagram. Instagram was never my thing. My kids are big on Instagram. They're scrolling through pictures, and I don't like to process like that. TikTok, however, is more my style. I never was a YouTuber. I never really got into full-length YouTubes type of thing. So when TikTok came out, and my wife started doing TikTok, she's in the health and beauty kind of spectrum of things, and she was always, you know, encouraging me to look at it. When I really grasped the advantage of TikTok for an artist is huge, because now, and of course you can do it on all platforms. Now you can put music with any video and any picture, and it gives people, but 2 years ago, a little over a year and a half, I guess, our song Crazy Girl blew up on TikTok, and to the point where 1.8 million streams.
Wow.
And so we really caught fire on TikTok. Now the algorithm has changed. Everybody's on TikTok, and paid ads are where it's at, you know, and I don't do it. I don't pay for anything on social media. I just like, so now we're seeing Facebook again, you know, and it's the great thing about any of those. The coolest thing was 3 months ago when TikTok started letting you keep track of what was going on and who was seeing it. That's the best thing about TikTok, is you can actually find the locations of who is seeing these videos, and you can kind of track them. Like all of my rodeo, Western theme stuff, man, from anywhere from Dallas, Texas over, that's where huge consumption. We hardly ever play in Texas. Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. One, they're saturated with artists. The money's not good in Texas. But live music is great. If you want to play, you can play in Texas, but the money is good where people don't want to go. Canada, Minnesota, Wisconsin, but that's the coolest thing about TikTok right now is you can actually see who's consuming, like you can do with Spotify and you can do with some of the other platforms, but it's easiest right now on TikTok. And that's been kind of cool. So, and then of course, I'm always anxious. It's all about attention. Wherever people's attention is at, that's where they're going to be. And like TikTok has started to fade now because it's going just like Instagram and Facebook did. It's going to get taken over with sponsored ads and then somebody else is going to come up with it. So it's fun and to try to guess the game and stay ahead of the curve. That'd be great. I wish I would have early on spent more time understanding LinkedIn. LinkedIn's now so expensive that it's just ridiculous. And it's a different audience, as long as you understand your audiences as you go through there, it makes it fun.
Yeah. I've found Instagram is good for like trying to get your personality across, like more of the narrative side, but like the TikToks, the Snapchat I heard is doing pretty good now, but YouTube, all these different like kind of fast paced ones. That's where you're kind of spreading your wings for your music, right?
Yep.
Getting the big fishing net in the water.
Yep. I haven't spent much time on Snapchat. I use it every now and then to just try. Like I'll explore a little bit and you get offered some spotlights and things like that. But that seems to be that has been a bigger challenge. And of course, the thing about Snapchat, I don't really, I'm not on there to communicate. And a lot of people are on there to communicate with their friends. And that's just not my purpose to be on social media at all. And that's, that's a whole nother topic as we go through about touring and social interaction. So, yeah.
So if you had like a piece of advice for an up and coming artist who's hoping to be able to do this for full time, like you are, where would you start?
Business school.
Really?
Yep. Because you can make so many mistakes early and waste so much time. Business school and not even like college and master's degree level, but just a concept of knowing that this is a business. And if you want to do it for a long time, you've got to run it like a business. And sometimes that means saying no. Sometimes that means saying yes. Sometimes that means playing for free. And sometimes it means playing for more money than what you even think you should ask for, and knowing where that's at. I think that would be the biggest thing I could tell. I mean, you can't get a better model of someone wanting to start in this business than Taylor Swift. If it wasn't for Taylor Swift's dad and his business knowledge, she would not be where she is today. She is not the best singer in the world. She is not the best performer in the world. But she's passionate. And so what he did, he took his knowledge and her passion and just created something that was incredibly marketable and related to her audience. And she still does that today. Like I heard, we keep hearing, she's doing 3-hour shows. She's out there playing stadiums in the arena, just pouring rain. Like you don't do that if you don't love what you do,
And for $13 million a night.
Yeah.
Like,
so
shout out to Taylor Swift, man. Like, wow.
No, I mean, and again, you can critique, anybody can critique her for many things. She's not Adele, but she doesn't have to be Adele. She just has to be Taylor, and it's just a perfect example. And the old story goes back that before iTunes limited sales, I guess the story, and I don't know this firsthand, I've heard it secondhand through many people in Nashville. They all tell the same story, that Taylor's dad bought her first 100,000 downloads from iTunes and took her to number one. And was it illegal? Nope. Was it immoral? Nope. Was it super smart? Yep.
Absolutely.
And then we hear the stories of Reba McEntire, who actually paid radio stations and bought by buying commercial time and played her songs during commercial time. Well, now you can't do that because of Reba McEntire, but it worked. And it was just a way to get yourself in front of people. Now with social media, You don't have to do that. I mean, Kane Brown's a perfect example of that. He built his YouTube and then he moved on. And there's so many on, besides those people. But so in the midst of that, the answer to your question is learn how to run a business and then take that and combine it with your passion. And it's gold.
Well, like you said, like there's a way to say no to people that keeps the relationship alive. And you can't just come in here and just sever ties because it's my schedule and I'm the superstar. Like that's not how the business runs,
Yeah. Or you can just be a forgiving guy like yourself. And when I'm 3 hours early on the podcast schedule, you're like, hey man, it's just 10 a.m. here in the mountains. I'm like, oh man. Yeah. So that's and really humility it's so important. It really is. And when you combine that with a level of vulnerability, but also to the point where you don't let people walk all over you, you know, and self-respect, that there's the line between self-respect and humility. It's pretty thin. And to be able to discern that is a huge skill. Not everybody has that. And if you don't have it, you work on it, you get to the point of it. But to be able to say no, that's tough for people.
It takes a lot of self-value, right?
Yeah, it really does.
Well, I think it was Apple. One of the spokespeople of Apple said they're just as proud of the things they've said no to as they are the things they've said yes to.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
So how is it, like, being the front man, the leader of this? You're doing this on your own. It's your name on the loan, I'm assuming, right? How is it managing that, and how do you handle that? Yeah,
so management is not my strong point, and that is, and so that when you realize that, so let me give you an example. So when we bus call Thursday morning, 8 a.m., when you're running your own company, you're managing your own thing. And really, I'm doing that because I don't want to give up the 20% gross to pay a manager. That bottom line still is really, really important today. And so when you're doing that, I think of things from that business model standpoint, way more than I do from a personal relationship. So just to be upfront and honest with you, Thursday morning or Friday morning, whenever a bus call is, on my calendar, on my phone, it pops up leadership. Check in with everybody and ask them how they're doing. And so I mentioned that because, we all have our own separate lives, our own separate weeks, relationship, marriages, whatever stuff going on. And it's really important to know who you're getting on that boat with and what kind of mental frame they're in and where they're coming from. If we do that, you eliminate so many issues from a management standpoint. You got to know the condition of your teammates when you walk on that field. And, we're here in Kansas today, and, Patrick Mahomes, I guarantee you that's one of his strengths. When I look at how he interacts with his teammates, if someone's having an off day, it's important to know that, because number one, you're going to treat them differently. You have to. And maybe they need the day off, and you've got to be able to accommodate that. And but if you don't check in with them, and as a leader, you don't know the shape of your team before you take the field or before you get on stage, and something happens, then you've lost it. And then that's when I lose control and I get upset or I get hurt or offended or whatever. And so for me, that's just not a strength of mine. It's something that I have to work at is a management standpoint. Delegation is tough for me because when you're the owner of a company, and this, when you run a company, it's easy to expect your employees to work as hard as you do, but they don't have the vested interests that you do. Let me give you an example. Like something tedious, like
recording your records, right?
Yeah, I mean, catching your employee texting while they should be driving tractor. They're pulled over in the field, and maybe it's because they got something going on at home. Maybe their dog just died. Maybe their dad's in the hospital. Important stuff. But if you don't know that, you're going to go yell at them because they're got the tractor pulled over. And the only reason I bring the tractor is I just grew up on a tractor. It's kind of a good analogy people can relate for. But you've got to know. You've got to know what's going on in people's lives, and that's hard. That's hard. That's hard to keep up.
You mentioned the dog thing, so I'll tell a story. So during lockdowns, I was a sales manager, and we got sent to work from home. And then instead of my store to manage, like my regular staff, they gave me staff from here, staff from there, everyone virtually, right? And they thought it would be good. Like, we're all at home, virtual. Let's get to know everybody in the company. Big corporation up here in Canada, right? Uh-huh. And I get a call from one kid in like hysterics, right? His dog's sick, doesn't know what's happening. Like it won't like eat, it won't anything. He's got to take it to the vet. And I said, yeah, man, I'll just mark you up for a sick day. Like you go ahead. And I get a phone call and it's like, did you use a sick day for this kid? And I'm like, yeah, I did. And like, but he's not sick. I'm like, but what did you expect him to do? Like, there's no way he could make phone calls and discuss, like, I don't want to talk about the business, but like discuss the relationships that we had. Like, you heard the kid over the phone. He's in hysterics. Like, he can't even think right now.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I guess. I'm like, well, where's the empathy? Like, yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, no, it's tough. So that's my biggest challenge. Is just from the management standpoint. The business side of it comes easy for me. But I grew that way. One of the things as a chiropractor, it's a little different in Canada because I think chiropractic is part of the healthcare system up there. Like it's covered in the government.
No, we have to pay for it.
Okay, so maybe it's not. We were told wrong. But
the price is governed. Like they tell us, like you can only charge within this much and this much.
Oh, I got you.
But then everyone just charges top dollar all the time.
Gotcha. Right? Yeah. So we had to build our own practice. You could go to work for somebody, but you're never going to make a decent income unless you build. So those skills were kind of, you learn those as you go through that. And I think you can do the same thing in the music industry, but I think it would be so much easier if you had it. One of the coolest things that I notice is we lose the apprenticeships that happen in a lot of industries. Let's take like any trade at all, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, welding. The best experience you get is the hands-on stuff, and those trades generally are paid training. You get paid training. It's not the best, but you're not a master electrician yet either. But you get paid training on the job skill learning. And I really think that's a lost art for a lot of things. And boy, if you put that next to business skills and you want to start touring, you want to start performing, go with somebody that's doing it. Even if you want to follow them for 6 weeks and do it for free, who cares? Work your Walmart job at night and during the week, bust your ass, and then take your Thursday through Monday and go volunteer to run sound or to be a guitar tech or whatever, and get that experience because there's so much that goes on, and you can save yourself so much time.
Well, and it's I don't know, like if it's the same over there. It seems like it's kind of a cross-board thing, but like you show up, you ask a sound guy if you can wrap some cables for him, and then you offer him a beer at the end of the night, and then next time you get 20% off, or maybe you get 2 technicians for free instead of just a guy mixing from the front, right?
Yeah.
And then you help push cables or wrap cables, push speakers into the truck again, and then all of a sudden you get a sound guy for free one night when you're playing a festival. Well, now the band sounds better. Like it's a really nice community if you're willing to be a part of it, right?
Yep. No, it is. And then that goes back to social media. There's so many avenues now to make those contacts and to interact, to the point where even if you let's take the sound engineering, you go to somebody that posted a live video from a console that they mixed and they did that live show, and you just make a comment and you maybe a simple question of, hey, what was that I heard at 3 minute 45 seconds? What was that sound that I heard there? And how did you accomplish that? That opens, people love to talk about themselves and what they do, and that opens the door. And so my son is actually going to go into his junior year with sound engineering and with audio engineering. And so what I'm really trying to ingrain in him is, hey, start interacting with studios and engineers on these social media platforms, so that when it comes time to do your internships and your associateships, you've got some connections built. And they're gonna, whether you're actually producing content or not, you don't have to, but if you can interact with them, and now, you can interact all over the world, and pretty much with the software and the technology we have now, unless you're doing live music and mixing and engineering and mastering, you don't need to be on site. You can pretty much control anything from anywhere in the world, and that's kind of cool as you go through there. So that, you gave a great example there.
So you're obviously a well-versed guy in all this. How far into the production side of your own music are you?
Well, I like to be as much hands-on as I can. I just model. I use the word model. There's very rarely do I not come into the studio with just an idea. I usually have the idea scripted out. I have an idea of what I want it to sound like, what I want it to look like. But that relationship with the producer, that's pretty important. Or the engineer. And in my case, the engineer and the producer are the same person. And you just learn how each other works, and you get comfortable with each other, and you're just like, nope, I don't want that. Take it out. Let's redo it again. And vice versa. He's not afraid to say to me, that doesn't sound good, Jake. That's not what we want to do. As it goes through there. But that creative process, I enjoy that process. I really like to do, I think I would enjoy doing that for other people, because you get tired of hearing yourself, your own voice and your own style. I would love to produce an album for somebody else, and just get creative with what they have. I think it's easier to recognize strengths and weaknesses in other people than sometimes it is in yourself until you hear it back.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I get clouded by the self-doubt, I guess. So I might write something that's, very poetic, very melodic, but I'll be like, this doesn't change the world, so I don't want to write it. Well, I'm not trying to change the world, but I'm just being hard on myself, right?
Right. Yep. Well, and the self-doubt, that's huge for people. There's a lot of, in the sales world, that they always say, well, listen, that no just gets you one no closer to the yes. Kind of deal. And there's no bad song. You hear that phrase, there's no bad song, and there's no great song, but there's a lot of songs in the middle. But you'll never going to recognize the great song if you never write a bad song, And so you've got to be easy on yourself. Sometimes it's just meant to be. And having that awareness and self-awareness, that's so huge. You think about your 86-year-old grandpa or whoever is influential in your life when you were young, the knowledge that they possessed from experience, and just knowing who you are, and then knowing what you could be capable of if you just let go of all the things that you're not good at, and tell yourself it's okay, and just build on your strengths and tell yourself that that's okay. Just people, gosh, they get so hung up on, I could do that. I could be like, no, I'm not the greatest leader in the world. I'm not the greatest manager in the world. I could get hung up on that. But I can walk into a room. I can walk into an amphitheater, and before I go on that stage, you have to tell yourself, okay, what are you going to do? What is your goal here? What do you want to accomplish? And this last weekend we did it. Played a festival, spread out in a huge courtyard, a huge park. And this is a question that I do go to my guys with. What's one thing that you want to do, you want to work on today at this show? What's the one thing that if you do it, you're going to walk away knowing? And so my guitar player is meticulous about his guitar, and not his guitar itself, but his playing. And that's why I hired him. He's a great guitar player. He's an introvert. He's not an extrovert in any way, shape, or form. He's incredibly uncomfortable, not performing, but after performances and before performances. So his answer was, I want to play and match the exact tone and style to the song that we're playing. And I want to nail it. And that was okay. The drummer was, hey, I want to be a little more flashy. I want to smile more. I want to be a little more flashy. For me, it was, I want to be able to talk to the back of the park, the back of the amphitheater. And so what I did is before the show, I went around and walked around. I just walked the entire area, got to know a few vendors, got to know a few people in the crowd. And that was my goal, is that I wanted to take a smaller set. Let's say I'm playing a room of 500 people. I can walk through that audience. I like to do that. I like to get off the stage, interact with people during the show. You play an arena, you can't do that. And now, listen, I saw Papa Roach one time do it, and it was pretty impressive. But that was a whole nother deal. And then you see some artists who strap themselves to a cable and they fly across the crowd. But to be able to control an amphitheater, a park, a room from the stage, that's a skill that I know I needed to learn. And so that's one of the things that we do as a group, is we try to pick that one thing. What's the one thing that you can do that's going to make you feel like this was a good performance as you go through the show? So yeah.
That's great business advice too, because like when I was a sales manager, it was, what's one thing you want to be better at today than you were yesterday? And like, I'm not talking metrics, I'm not talking any of that. Like, tell me about your engagement with the customer. Tell me about your presentation. Like, these are the things I want to hear, right?
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you what, sales in music business, very similar. You're going to hear the word no a lot.
A lot. In North American, specifically in the United States, it takes 8 phone calls just to get someone to answer the phone now. So that's 8 times. You don't even get the no, you just got the voicemail. And then you got to ask, like, how tough are your balls that you're willing to call 8 times without getting a phone call, right?
Sure.
So, but that's a whole nother thing too.
Yeah, that's an interesting stat. and as you say that, I just switched my phone over last week to, if they're not in my contacts, they go straight to voicemail.
Yeah, that's important though.
Yeah.
How are you doing for time? You still doing good?
Yeah, we're good. My battery's got about 15 minutes left.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what else are you plugging right now? What else can we expect from Jake Gill coming up this summer?
Oh, man, this summer. What can you expect? I think one of the things that we're really focused on is playing new venues. It's easy to get into a, booking is always hard. Doesn't matter who you are. Matching a venue with the artist is always tough. So one of the things that we're really focusing on is playing new venues, meeting new people. It gets very easy to play the same clubs, playing the same casinos over. You establish those relationships, and it kind of becomes family-esque, but almost too comfortable. And so you're never going to expand as an artist and build that fan base. So that's going to be big for me. That was actually a weakness in my practice when I was in chiropractic practice. It was easier to retain patients for me than it was to go out and get new patients. It's probably
cheaper too.
Yeah, it is cheaper, but for the long-term health of the practice, it wasn't as good. And same thing. So one of you see that in merchandise sales. Unless there's 2 ways to do that. If you're not constantly producing new merchandise sales, your merch sales are not very good. But if you play new places, you can carry the same T-shirt, the same hat, and your sales are great. So there's multiple ways of looking at that. Both are just a matter of time investment. Where do you want to invest your time? And there's a good balance in those, I suppose. But our focus right now is new venues and new performances.
No, I love that, man. I love that. It really looks like you're doing well. You said you've been doing this full time for a long time. Facebook's popping off. I didn't even know you're on TikTok, so I'll find you on there next. Positivity is killing it. Like I said, I've been listening to that. I love a reggae jam.
It's so different. Yeah.
But it's so fitting for the summer. Like, it sounds like you're on like a fair sized property. We're on 7 acres out here.
Yep.
And we had a bull bust into our yard. We don't have any animals, but we do have cow pies out there as well.
Yeah.
But like, I was just walking around moving irrigation, and I put it on just to like refresh my brain. I listened to all your singles. I listened to your record too. I wanted to talk to you about your record. We could do that another time. But it was just like, man, this just feels right. Being out in the sun, out in the weather. That's nasty snare drum, man. I love a reggae snare drum.
Did you make a TikTok of the bull? Did you get any of that on video?
So I've got a pit bull mastiff. He's about 140 pounds, and we took him out for a walk, and we turned a corner to just see this big steer looking at us. And I just went, "We're gonna go back inside."
What did your dog do?
I don't even think he saw it. He's
okay.
He's kind of a pansy. Like if there's a blanket curled up at the edge of the bed, he'll sit and cry until we move it so he can come up on the bed.
Is he been around cattle before?
No.
Oh, okay.
Horses though, so I forgot about him one day, which I'm not supposed to talk about, but he got into the neighbor's pasture and they've got horses out there, and he was just out there grazing with them.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Do you guys have animals?
Yeah, I have 2 horses, and so I ride quite a bit, as much as I can. Not as much in the summer, but yeah,
too hot for him.
Yeah, it is, and I've got one that's getting older, and so he's not as enjoyable to ride, and you feel bad for riding. But my younger horse is great, and so just it's more of a time factor. I like to golf, so this is prime golf season, and that's where we were at this morning when the car broke down. So
Oh, good. And then so you're a full-time musician, so your time is really like you probably spend a good time of it just being inspired, doing things you like doing, right?
Yeah. So in that's time management's huge. I do a podcast as well. So I do those on, I try to do them on Tuesday and Wednesday mornings when I know I'm home, and don't have to try to stress over that. So that makes a big difference. And fortunately, most touring happens, on the weekends, Thursday through Sunday kind of deal. Summer is a little bit different. You'll have your spotty Tuesday, Wednesday festivals or something like that as it goes through there. So it's not too bad, but the best thing that I ever did personally was to get a bus. To be able to sleep either while someone's driving or to be able to just pull over and get some sleep. It's crazy, to pull an all-nighter and get home at 5 a.m. and then you sleep till noon. Then your day's kind of wasted as you go through there. But if you can pull over at 2 or 3 in, get 3 or 4 hours of good sleep, finish that drive, you pull in the driveway at 8 a.m., you can still make a functional day. It's been huge as it goes through there. And it's just, you have to just get there. You cut your teeth with a truck and trailer as long as you can. You save every penny you can with merch sales and reinvest it back into the company. And that's been such a blessing to be able to have that. And that makes touring so much easier.
I could imagine, man. No, it's been great talking with you. I appreciate you being here. Talk about your podcast. Tell us where we can find it. What's the podcast about?
Yep. So podcast, we strictly right now have everything on YouTube. It's called Live Music Nation. If you're looking for an event or a festival and looking to expand your horizons and your travel plans, that would be the podcast for you. That's exactly what it's about. It's just connecting music fans with live events and festivals all over the U.S.
Unreal. No, that's awesome, man. I'll have the link to that in the description box here too.
That's cool. Jesse, thanks for kicking. And of course, we got a mutual friend, Anna, she's in England or Great Britain or one of those, right?
However it works. Yeah. One of the islands.
Yeah. So
how'd you meet Anna?
I'm glad that she hooked us up, and we'll give her a shout out as well. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, shout out to Anna, man. She's been a big supporter of my channel. I met her through another guitar player. She's been on some Twitch streams with us. She's been on some live streams with us, chatting in the audience. She's a lot of fun.
She needs her own podcast. She's got like a network of craziness.
Well, that's what like every time she brings up some kind of conversation, she's talking to some new musician, talking to this new person, writing new music for this person. Like, just jump on a camera.
Yeah. No, that's perfect.
Anything else you want to plug while I got you here?
What's that?
Anything else you'd like to plug while you're here?
No, man. I just if people can get one thing from this conversation today, it would be chase your dream. And even if it's just starting small, just grind at it. If it's in your blood, man, I always tell people it's that intersection of what you're good at and what you enjoy. And just go after it. You don't have to go all in at once. Work your day job, work your hobby at night. But we got to do it, because once you get it in your blood and you get it flowing, man, things will work out, and you'll be able to figure out how to do that, and then learn from other people. That's so huge. You can save yourself so much time, so many mistakes, just learning from people who have either done it, managed it, or been there. And it's huge. Never stop learning. That's huge.
Yeah. When you stop learning, you die, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna live, be forever, Jesse. I'm learning from you today.
No, I appreciate you being here, man. This is a lot of fun. Looking forward to any new music. And like I say, man, a reggae jam, I'm gonna be listening to it all summer.
That's perfect. Country reggae. I appreciate it. Thanks, Jesse.
Anytime, man. You have a great day.
You too.